This is a Zach Feldman Show replay on ZRadioLive.com.
The website music station Z Radio Live. This is the Zach Feldman Show. Joining me over the phone is an author. Her name is Colleen Dixon, and she has a brand new book called Salamander. Colleen, thanks for joining me here on the Zach Feldman Show. How's everything going?
Everything's great. Thanks so much for having me.
Anytime. Tell me all about this brand new book.
So the book is called Salamander, and it is about a personal story that happened to me. So when I was 28 years old, I had a stroke.
Wow.
And I temporarily lost the ability to walk, to swallow, and I was dizzy for 24/7. And while I was recovering, all of the people around me were a lot older than me, because strokes usually happen to people when they're a lot older in life. Mm-hmm. And so I didn't really have anyone that I could relate to in that moment. Like, I had my friends who were supportive, but they really couldn't understand what I was going through. And so during that time, I felt really alone. And the motivation to write this book came from that place of loneliness. So Salamander is basically a book about me having a stroke at 28, what it felt like from my perspective, my recovery, and the lessons that I learned along the way.
So, first off, I'm so glad you're okay now, from it. Have you fully recovered from the stroke?
For the most part, yes. There's some things that are a little different that are always going to be different. I call them my superpowers now.
That's the best way to look at it.
Yeah, so I have a higher pain tolerance, and I can't feel hot and cold as easily as I did before, but for the most part, I'm back to normal. If you would look at me, you wouldn't know that I had a stroke.
I mean, I would love to be able to do that, so I can just grab food when I'm cooking food, just grab it out of the stove and just put it onto my plate. I mean, come on, it would save me so much money.
It has its perks and its downsides. I can't feel it, but my body still realizes that I just burnt myself. So there's side effects.
But you know what? I mean, a lot of people say too, when you have a stroke, you're sometimes your body gets it's hard to speak and stuff like that. I mean, you sound terrific, So I mean, you really did a great job recovering from this. I mean, it was obviously scary to go through this, but take us a little bit through, what was it like having to go through that at 28?
It was absolutely terrifying. I didn't, that wasn't something that I ever imagined would happen to me at that age. So before the stroke happened, I was in a career that was in my field finally after I had gone to school and gotten all these student loans to get my master's degree in human resources. So I was finally in my career field, and I saw a vision of my future, and I kind of just had my life mapped out. So that was one day. And then the next day, I'm in the hospital. There's all these machines beeping around me. Wow. I can't walk. I can't really see. I can't swallow. I can't feed myself. And I'm like, oh crap, what happened now?
Oh my God. I mean, but this didn't affect your career, though, to the slightest. You could still do what you wanted to do, right?
I can still do that career, but going through this stroke made me realize that I don't want to do that career. After I had the stroke and had to go through recovery, it was really just a moment where I sat down and thought, okay, I'm here for some sort of reason, and I don't think that what I am doing is my purpose in life. And so after I went through recovery and I went back to work, I took a leap of faith from that, because I knew that that's not what I was here to do.
So in the book, is this a retelling of what happened in the events, or is this kind of like a journal in a sense where you've written down kind of thoughts in your head during that time?
It's a little bit of both. So there's some stuff that I didn't write down at the time that I kind of tapped into my senses and took myself back to that place and just kind of wrote down what I was thinking. And in the second half of the book, it's things that I just kind of reflected on, kind of like a journal, and just thoughts that I had based off of what I went through and things that I learned.
I'm curious, like, what is something that you've learned from this experience that, you know, has kind of bettered you in a sense? I know it's kind of hard to say that word better because it's like, it's such a tragedy, such an awful thing to go through, but like, I'm sure there was something in there that was a positive.
Oh yeah, I'm in a place right now where I'm grateful that it happened to me, because I did learn a lot of lessons along the way. But the main lesson that I think sticks out to me the most is to trust your instincts and to speak up when you know something is being done that's wrong. So in the story, I talk about how I was taken to the hospital via ambulance, and then I was sent home with anxiety. And I knew deep down that the doctors were not taking me seriously in this moment, and that there was more that was happening. But for whatever reason, I did not speak up, and I didn't act as my own advocate. And I think from that, I have learned to just trust my gut and trust my instinct and speak up and be my own advocate.
You know, what's awesome is that you also made this book free for anybody to go read online. You know, what was the reasoning behind that? Was that to bring awareness to, you know, this situation, or was it, you know, is there something else behind it?
So I felt like I was called to write this book. Like, I feel like something higher than me told me to write this book to assist someone else who may be going through a similar situation. And so the reason I released it for free is because I don't want any sort of financial obstacle to get in the way of whoever needs this message.
Mm-hmm. And what is the message that you want readers to get from it?
I want readers to know that whatever you are going through, you are stronger than you think, and you will be stronger for going through that process.
And you
are not alone.
And you are stronger too, because you went through this, and it's so great that you're okay now, and you're able to tell your story about this, because it's horrible. You know, it's a horrible thing to go through. You know, I've known many people who went through strokes. My dad went through a stroke. You know, so in the process of writing the book, do you go through, you know, the recovery process?
Yeah, I go through what it felt like to have a stroke. I go me working with the therapist and me gaining function of my limbs. I go through all of that.
So tell me all about the cover. It's called Salamander, and I'm curious to know, why is it called Salamander?
So back in 2014, I noticed that every time I had a dream, a salamander was in it somewhere. It might be on somebody's shirt, or like crawling on the wall in the background, or some earrings, or anything really. But my attention was always called to the salamander.
Wow.
And so I Googled what that meant. And the common denominator that I was always getting was resilience. Like, a salamander can lose a limb and regenerate one seamlessly and effortlessly. And I didn't really understand why I was having those dreams back then, because nothing was really happening in my life. But when I had the stroke, I was grateful for those dreams, because I guess it trained my subconscious mind with the message of resiliency. And so I was able to not allow myself to get into this really dark place, and just know that I can heal from this. And so I was grateful for that. And when I started writing the book, I figured that would be the best name for it, because of those dreams that I was having.
Do you think your dreams have helped you recover from this horrible incident?
Oh, absolutely. I don't know if I would have gotten through it if I didn't have that constant reminder subconsciously and in my dreams of resilience.
That's amazing, you know, and it's still incredible that, you know, and I'm so happy that you've recovered, you know, as much as you can from this, and are able to tell your story and put it out there for free, nonetheless. Yeah. You know, why did you want to put out your story for free?
So I felt like I was called to write this book to help somebody who may be going through a similar situation, and I didn't want there to be any obstacle to getting this message that's needed in order to kind of be like a verbal handhold through whatever situation that they may be going through.
That's incredible.
And so I released it for free so that there was no obstacle to that.
Wow, you know, and you have such a kind heart, really do, and you know. Mm-hmm. And the fact that you went through this is still crazy to me, you know. And I just want to know, like, what's next, I guess. Are you going to write another book? Like, do you kind of want to feel like, do you feel like you want to go into writing a little more? Or do you feel like this was, you're one and done, I'm putting out my story there and that's that.
So I do want to write some more. I don't know if I'll have more as far as like memoirs are concerned, but I do want to write some more. I am into poetry and I've been dabbling a little bit into that. So I may have something additional for you in like a year or two. But for right now, I'm just focused on Salamander.
Well, that would be cool if you do a poetry book. That'd be nice.
Yeah.
What got you? What you got your interest into poetry?
I've always kind of just liked poetry. I write poetry when I'm journaling, and I use poetry like to express myself sometimes. But I usually do it for like personal. Like I don't usually share it. And so it might be nice to just put that out into the world and see how people respond to that and who can relate to it.
Also, I want to go back to just before we wrap up here. You were talking about how you felt like you had to write this book, and you felt like this book needed to be put out for people. But I'm just so curious because this is your first book. Was it nerve-wracking? Was it, was it scary? Were you nervous to kind of put this out there for the world to see?
Oh, absolutely. I had to get to this is me being my most vulnerable. This is me putting out my emotions, my thoughts, my fears, the things that embarrassed me during this, putting it all on paper and releasing it out into the world. So this is very scary, but it's exciting at the same time, and I can't wait to see who it'll help. That's
amazing. Well, Colleen, seriously, thank you so much for joining me here on the Zach Feldman Show. I'm so happy you're all better and you were able to push out this book. First off, before you go, actually, where can people check out the book?
So it is available for free download at Barnes & Noble. Just type in Salamander and you'll see it come up.
That is awesome. And if you'd like to donate to help out Colleen Dixon, you can donate through her PayPal at salamandernelly@gmail.com or at her Cash App, which is the $ Salamander Nelly. Thanks so much for joining me here, Colleen, and best of luck with everything.
Well, thank you so much.
The website music station Z Radio Live, back with more Zach Feldman Show after this.
Want to hear more? Listen to the Zach Feldman Show every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on ZRadioLive.com.